Hey everybody, today I have another good one. I have the legendary Allyssa. Just a quick background on some of the stuff she's did. Hold on, we're getting a little. I apologize. We had a little feedback kicking in my ear. I don't know if you guys heard that, but look, I'm gonna do it all over again because we're live and things like that happen. So everybody, I have the legendary Allyssa. She has done so much for the animation community. I thought I knew some of the things she's done, but I think when I did a deep dive, I kind of just grazed the surface. I didn't know about all the she's from the forest animation. Not only that she started animating, she's been doing animation. She has an agency where she not only helps people to get, most importantly, jobs. Right, she helps to connect the animator with the studio. She does classes. She does tutorial. I mean, so much stuff she does. I'm sure we're gonna get into the details of and the nitty gritty, but I think she's someone you need to know. Like I try to bring people from the community that are just killing it, right? If I see somebody killing it, I just bang down the door. Like I gotta get you on the show. I gotta get you on the show. So I know I didn't do the best intro. Working on my intro, people, but this is the best intro I can come up with. The best intro I can do. My skills ain't there yet, but this is Allyssa, and I just like to say thank you for being on the show.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. We're gonna get straight into it. How did you get started in the creative field?
So, I've wanted to be an animator my entire life. Since I was 2 years old, I watched Bugs Bunny being drawn to life on Looney Tunes, and I thought that's what I want to do. I knew about careers and I knew that I could have one, so I thought, why not do that? The unfortunate part is that I wasn't in a creative space. My
Mm.
family has a military background.
Oh.
And so we moved a lot. I was always hopping from one school to another, and often it was on a military base that didn't
Mm-hmm.
offer art classes. So I really had to wait until college before I could make my big debut into animation. A lot of my animations before were with MS Paint and with
Mm.
Microsoft PowerPoint. If you
Wow.
can imagine me hitting the button like wildfire to get the movement in the animation.
Wow.
But I ended up going to school. I went to Westland College as my first college. I learned a
Mm.
lot about fine arts. And I transferred immediately over to Savannah College of Art and Design, the Atlanta
Okay.
campus, to
Yes.
study animation.
Mm.
And I got my first job in the industry, my first year in my first quarter at Savannah College of Art and Design at Georgia Public Broadcasting.
Mm.
And getting started early in your career has some really big positives. You get to make your mistakes earlier
Mm-hmm.
and you get to iterate your process of learning and figure out where you want to be in the industry before you graduate. And so that
Right.
was very helpful.
Awesome. Wow, you covered a lot. So military background. So I could everyone. I assume. Forgive me if I'm wrong. I assume everyone with a military background, like their parents from military. I feel like there's discipline there, and I feel like in the creative field, like you need to be disciplined. There's so many ideas. I want to do this. I want to do that. With that, but you have to be dedicated. You have to be disciplined to say, okay, I'm gonna take down. I'm gonna bucket down. I'm gonna do this idea. And I think that's just it's just crucial where I stand point. So you do this, you go to SCAD, you for animation, and then you go into the creative agency. Like you started your own staffing agency.
Mhm.
Like talk about how talk about that bridge and like just talk on that.
So I have been in the animation industry for a little over 14 years now,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been running my own staffing agency for about 5 years.
Wow.
When I was working in the studio, there's an environment of focusing on your art. And I think it really stems from school. When
Mm.
you're in school, you are taught to focus on your craft and
Mm-hmm.
not really so much the business or the sustainability of your
Mm.
crafts and the balance between your life and your craft. So a lot of artists at some point in their life end up struggling to balance it all. And I felt like the missing key um, was the business part, is the fact that we have so many companies out here looking for artists, but we don't
Right.
have enough artists who are looking to put themselves out there in a way that shows value to these companies so they can bring
Right.
them on. So there's this disconnect between the people who have opportunities and those who need the opportunities.
Right.
And there's also a disconnect between what animators can do with their skills.
Mm-hmm.
And I say animators, but really anyone in the creative field, there's a disconnect between really where their skills can go.
Right.
And I thought, I struggled a lot when I was in school. I
Mm-hmm.
should create something that's going to help other artists. One of
Mm-hmm.
my biggest issues I had was a lack of information and
Mm.
resources.
Yeah.
Uh, During my time at Savannah College of Art and Design, I took a senior portfolio class where we had an assignment to, and this was the last 2 weeks. I always tell people, I cannot believe that I got asked to do this so late in the game while I was at university. They've changed their course givings now, but at the
Mm-hmm.
time it was really intense. The last 2 weeks, I was asked to find 3 employers
Okay.
that could hire me with my skills,
Uh-huh.
find at least 3 companies that I could work for,
Okay.
email them my
Uh-huh.
resume, cover letter, and my website, and my demo reel, and my
Wow.
portfolio, which
Okay.
had not been created.
Oh, right. That's a
Create a
problem.
business card as well. Like
Yeah.
all of that had to be
Whew.
done within the last 2 weeks. And
Oh,
I was
two
freaking out
weeks?
the
Oh, no.
last 2 weeks of that school year. And I didn't know what to do. I had written resumes and cover letters before, and I
Mm-hmm.
did make a business card, but I had never made a website. I
Right.
didn't know who I should contact. I had a few studios in mind
Mm-hmm.
that I had seen on television. I watched their shows,
Right.
and I thought, well, I want to work for them. As I did more research, I realized that some of those studios had actually closed down before I graduated.
Wow. Wow.
Um, so I wasn't going to work for them.
No.
And I thought, you know what? I'm going to ask my fellow classmates
Mm-hmm.
what studios are they looking for and what job leads are they finding?
There you go.
And, what are some ways that I can strengthen my competitive edge as we're all going into this industry?
Mm-hmm.
And the resounding response was, I don't really want to, just kind of
Mm.
figure it out. You just do
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
research. They
No.
really wanted to keep it for themselves.
Mm.
And it felt like our community was very much so each person needs
Mm.
to look out for themselves so that they can survive. And I don't like that culture. And so when I was starting the staffing agency, I thought about the struggles I had, and I thought about the struggles I see other people having when they're trying to break into the industry. We're very much so a who you know
Right.
kind of
Yeah.
industry. If
Yes,
you
it
know
is.
people and they
Mm-hmm.
like you, they will bring you in and train you before they will hire someone else who already has the skills.
Oh, that's so
And
true.
that happens a lot in other industries as well, but it doesn't lend itself to diversity or inclusion or um, even just a proper communication channel. So I really wanted to bridge a lot of those gaps with
Mm-hmm.
my company. And so I focused on educating artists who are emerging
Mm-hmm.
in, what are the business skills that you're missing? Why, when you are on hiatus, which is
Mm-hmm.
a time period in between a television show or project you may be working on, why during that time are you not able to pick up client projects?
Mm.
And how can you present yourself as a professional that is attractive to clients? And
Mm-hmm.
then also for the companies, because I meet so many companies, small businesses, even larger ones that are just opening up art departments
Right.
who have horror stories of working with artists about artists walking off on the job or not
Mm.
completing a task or it taking a long time because they can't get ideas communicated. How can we get them in line with the creative process so that they fully understand what it takes to hire an artist
Right.
and how to complete a project?
Oh, wow. I like your positioning. I feel like it's definitely needed a bridge because I've been on both sides, was trying to get a job and then trying to hire somebody. And there's a lot of times I would say when people are doing the hiring, they're not necessarily creatives. So I think even
Mm-hmm.
there's a communication barrier of I want to do something. Oh, that's a 10-man job. You know what I mean? And if they hire directly without going through an agency, I think they say, well, let me put on one person, and a young guy may be very ambitious, and they get to it and like, whoa, I thought I can do it. When I got to nitty gritty, it's not even possible. And then they end up, like you said, walking off. But I think having somebody as who can kind of bridge and say, okay, I've been doing this. That's a 3-person job. We get 3 people, and you don't want to bring a new person onto this job because it's a little demanding, and your ETA is just so close. So I think a lot of times sometimes they have a creative director and they have that education, they have the knowledge, but they're not even aware of what the field present, and rates, and talking about money and what's the going rate, if they're going to hire local, and I think it's very important. So I think what you're doing is super awesome. And number one thing, I think I talk for a lot of creative people is they're trying to get paid. the end of the day,
Yes.
they're like, I am trying to get paid. Where do I need to do, and who I need to call, and what I need to do, this and that. So I think effectively that is huge. So my question is, as people are trying to get paid, what makes a good candidate for an animation job? Let's say I'm coming in, you don't know me, my name is Joe Blow. I come there and say, Lisa, I said, look, I'm trying to get paid. What I got to do? Tell me what I got to do.
So as an artist, what it takes for you to get paid as an animator.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So there are so many avenues in which you can take when you're approaching the opportunities for employment.
Right.
So you could go the freelance route and you can be an
True.
independent person who just does one-off projects or even long-term one-off projects.
Okay.
Or you can be put on retainer and have, a reoccurring stream of projects coming in. Or you can go the in-studio employee route where you join a company and
Okay.
they give you the work that you're going to create. There are differences and pros and cons for each of them. If you are trying to create income and you're an independent, that's my favorite. That's my bias. It's my favorite. I have worked
Okay.
with studios and I enjoy having, a steady stream of projects just handed to me. But
Right.
there's something about being independent and the flexibility of being able to wear what you want, work when you want. That's you creating your own schedule, work with the tools and techniques that you choose. As an employee, you don't have control over that. You have a company that's telling you how to do that. And with the independent route, you also get to choose what kind of clientele you take on.
Right.
Unlike in a studio where they're going to hand you a stream of it. And with that flexibility, you get to really customize what your brand, your reputation, what your overall image is going to be.
That's so
And I
true.
would say if you're looking to go the independent route and you're trying to earn income, definitely start thinking about yourself more holistically.
Mm-hmm.
I go back to the school reference as if you're learning in a school, even if that is an online school, like Animation Mentor or I love School of Motion. I love
Right.
these online schools. They're
Right.
fantastic. It doesn't matter if you're learning in an online school or in a brick and mortar university. The onus is on you to really make that a more holistic one and focus on the business. So think about your marketing, your visual branding, about how you're going to network and how you're going to put things out in the community. When we think about traditional industries, um, you know, they they're not like artists. Artists are a
Right.
special brand. Artists
Yeah.
often are personally attached to the services they provide,
Yeah.
and we may be more interested in furthering our ideas and reputation, and just barely making it financially, whereas in other industries they are focused on high profitable items and on iterating to
So
meet the
true.
needs of their client base.
So
And
true.
artists, if we adopt these kind of principles that are in other industries, then we'll see that we will also be as successful as they are. People
Right.
need art. This is a multi-billion dollar industry.
Oh yeah.
Advertising, subliminal messaging,
Yes.
this this way of influencing the world is a very big industry, and
Yeah.
it's unfortunate that so many artists are struggling to find their way. But if you do stick to your traditional methods of figuring out how money is made in your industry,
Right.
that'll help. If you're going the studio route, it's a little different because we do have this set formula.
Okay.
Studios want to know, can you solve my problem? Just like independents do, but in a different way. The studio wants to know, do you have the techniques? Do you have the foundational education? Do you know you're in America, the 12 principles of animation? Do you understand acting and physics? Do you have some sort of proof that you know it? And
Right.
you do need proof that you know what you've done. For legal reasons, if
Right.
for nothing else, is they need to prove that there was a reason why they hired you over other people and there wasn't any form of discrimination. So having some sort of artistic presence, a portfolio, there's questions on whether you should have a social media site or personal site. I say both. Definitely keep your personal site, because social media is constantly changing.
Right.
And then also learning how to give these value propositions to clients, no matter which one you're going for. If you are going to speak to someone about art, we often think about the sales pitchy method, where we're
Right.
just saying, I can do this, I can do that. But we really need to be speaking to people's pain points and thinking about problem solving. So if you're approaching a company like
Right.
a Georgia Power or a military company or a dentist office, something like that, the problem you're solving is not that they need an animation. The problem you're solving is that they need more customers or they need more people viewing them. So you have to also have a marketing mind. You're selling yourself as a package and not just a hand for hire or a tool that just does one thing.
Right.
Because there are so many ways to accomplish something. There's so many ways for them to get more clients, and you need to convince them that animation is the correct method.
Oh wow, I appreciate that well thought out answer there. That details breaks it down. That's a great piece of advice. Curious, what's the best piece of advice you've been given?
I will say the one that I go back to often is remembering that we're all human.
Right.
And that we all have the same 24 hours in a day.
Right.
And we see people moving mountains with their 24 hours, and we see people barely getting off the couch. And you choose what you're going to do with yours and be as strategic as possible, because the one thing that's different between us, we all get the same 24 hours, but we don't all get the same amount of life and the amount of quality of life as we go through it. So really cherishing each moment you have, fully embracing and accepting the fact that you don't know what tomorrow brings, and being strategic with your 24 hours. I spoke to a friend, who was it last week? Yes, and he brought up the fact that it's good sometimes to take a break and appreciate the times where you are still. And I agree with that. I think you should definitely give your body rest.
Definitely.
And, that's really important, self-care, all of that.
Yeah. Oh, crucial.
But it is. But also remember that when you are resting, that is you intentionally doing something to help yourself. And if you are doing something and it's not productive, it's not helping you, this isn't meaningful rest or intentional break, then that's called procrastination. You're just stalling from completing your goals. And a definition I got for procrastination, which I'm sticking to now, is that procrastination is the arrogant assumption that you will get and deserve a second chance. And nobody has a second chance promised. Nobody has the next breath promised. So it would behoove you to get to your work a lot faster and act like life isn't promised to you.
Yeah, shoot. Lucky enough to get a first chance some days.
Yes. Some people don't even get that.
Yeah. So now we talked about getting hired from the artist perspective, but from the client's perspective, what advice would you give?
So for clients, it is it's a very emotional process. Artists, we talk about them getting attached to their work. And when you go to a commercial art school like Savannah College of Art and Design or any other school where they're teaching you to get a job at a company, not so much teaching you to be an independent artist who makes their work, you learn things like to detach yourself from your work. And with clients, I think a little bit of that advice would take their projects a bit further. Whenever someone is purchasing something, it's an emotional purchase.
Yeah.
If you don't feel good about what you're buying, no matter how sensible it seems in the moment, you're not going to want to buy. And in fact, you may have remorse after you purchase. So it's important for people who are looking for artists to complete their projects that they really focus on what their actual needs are. Is your need to make a story so that you have an advertisement? No, it is to get clients in the door. So working with an artist who is not just a hand for hire, who just knows how to do art, or working with a project manager who really understands your needs is going to make your project at the end be more successful. You're going to get the results that you're looking for, no matter what the project looks like. You may have an idea in your head of what kind of animation you would like to create. I would say definitely check the full process of it. Do your research, just as you would do research on a plumber or on a certain part for your car, and you would see how necessary it is or what the value of having each brand is. I want you to do the same thing with artists when you select them. Think about how they can help you reach your goals and what methods they use, and also how much they cost. And how long it takes for them to get their work done. If you're working with an artist who is fresh out of school and you think you're going to get the lowest prices ever, it's going to save you so much money. What you may be overlooking is the fact that someone who's fresh out of the school is going to make a lot of mistakes, and they're going to make those mistakes with your project. And
Mm-hmm.
that means it could take longer. You could end up
Mm-hmm.
not getting what you want in the very end.
Right.
Or worse, they could get frustrated with all the mistakes and give up or act unprofessionally in some fashion.
Mm.
So really think about all your options and consider consulting with someone. Now, my company does offer consulting services when it comes to projects,
Oh, that's
but
important.
even if you don't use my company, look at someone who is in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't pay for anything, pay for a moment to really work through the process of
Mm-hmm.
creating your work so that you know what you're looking to have done and what kind of surprises could happen. That
Right.
way, you'll go through all the steps correctly and use a contract always. Doesn't
Right.
matter if you're creative or a company.
Definitely. Let me piggyback on what something you said. I stand behind. If you don't know the creative industry, you want to get something done, you want to get something nice, use a consultant agency. I could recommend yours, but I wouldn't say, because a lot of times you don't know what you don't know, right? So you go in there, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I want this and this and that. One person came to me up and said, y'all want this? And I was like, that's Pixar, man. We expect one person to animate Pixar? Man, get out of here.
Do you
And
have
you make,
Pixar money?
yeah, exactly. You may
Do you
frustrate.
have 300 people working on it?
Yeah, like come on, this are you serious right now? So a lot of times they don't even know, and I know me. I can talk to the artists. I know they may be a little temperamental. Don't come and ask me a request and then say, "What's your budget? What's your budget? How much you charge?" It's like a whole conversation. That's why I feel like you need a liaison, something like that, to communicate and know you're getting a good deal. You might not reach out to the artist that you want. And when it comes to art, there's so many different styles. You know what I mean? Somebody may be, I'm good at this style. I prefer this style. Or I like this style. Or I like mixture of both. And you may have a style that you have in mind that an artist maybe can do technically, but not a fan of it. So then I can put that much energy in it. So I can definitely recommend your services, but I would say it's crucial if you're trying to do something, a good product. And even you're trying to just get some information to say, look, let me get my information and let me get my budget so I know what to budget. So, okay, if I want to do an animation, I want to do a commercial, some motion graphics or whatever the case may be, or illustration or a comic book or a children's book, whatever the case may be, I want to know what I'm getting, how much it's going to cost, what's a fair rate, where can I go? If I want to cut corners, don't try to cut corners yourself because you don't know the field. You know what I mean? It's kind of like when you're building a house, allow the contractor to cut corners. Don't cut corners yourself because that house will fall on you. So I feel like you go to somebody who knows how to say, hey, if you want to save extra dollars, you might do this. Do a longer title sequence and stay away from the character-based animation. And you can tweak it this and then this can lower your rate. So I think that's crucial. I'll say 100% don't do it. That's my opinion and I'm sticking to it. But so what are some of the things, like, I think, what are the things artists are struggling? What's some of the main struggles you see artists have?
So there are artists who haven't gone to school and they are trying to do art on their own, and some of them are
Right.
struggling with just the basic mechanics of animation. How do you animate?
Right.
I remember going to Guyana, which is my family's home country,
Oh,
and
awesome.
they were starting their first animation studio. And I looked at the challenges that they had. And if you were in a location that doesn't have animation, I
Right.
mean, there's no animation schools, there are no
Mm-hmm.
animation studios, there is no software available for you to purchase to
Right.
get animation because your country may not have like it open for you to communicate with those companies.
Right.
Then you don't have a way of learning animation in the most contemporary sense, and you'll
Mm-hmm.
have to find people online, find mentorships.
Right.
I know that Toon Boom reached out to that studio in Guyana and sent a representative over to train fine arts
Mm-hmm.
painters into
Mm.
animators. And then they started a program to help other people in the country become animators.
Mm.
So that's a huge struggle when you're talking on that level. On the extreme, we have no access to resources. And then there's the coming out of the I'm learning on my own and I'm in a remote area. And it's
Right.
very similar where you have to find access to resources and classes
Mm.
and also jobs.
Yeah.
Finding a way to pitch yourself and pitch the value of having animation over a live action piece to other companies that are around you.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the emerging student who is just coming out of school or who is still in school and trying to get into the industry, trying to network.
Mm-hmm.
And some issues that they have is that they feel like they're a nobody.
Yeah.
And they can't network with people who are already, in the industry. And I've been there before where I felt like, how could I get my voice heard? And there are some strategies I use to get around that. And for people who are in between that I'm out of school, and I've got a job. That people right in the middle who
Right.
haven't had a job
Mm-hmm.
in 5, sometimes 10 plus years, and
Ooh.
they already went to art school. That's a really heartbreaking one. A lot of times there are common themes as to why someone hasn't had a job for five,
Mm.
10 plus years. Um,
What?
but
Quick.
for those,
What
mhm,
are these themes? I'm curious if you don't mind. What's like which one thing
there
that
are
sticks
some
out?
themes that I see that they have in common, and I'll be
Right.
like, "Oh my gosh, classic, classic." A
Wow.
lot of
Wow.
time, and I'm not sure if it's the chicken or the egg, but at
Okay.
some point, when I see people who've been 5, 10 years out of work,
Mm-hmm.
they have a very, very, very negative outlook on life and on
Okay.
situations and circumstances. I mean, noticeably above average in
Right.
their negativity levels. And they
Mm.
are very narrow sighted when
Mm.
it comes to the way they want things done. So, a your average artist
Mm-hmm.
will see a project and
Right.
say, "Oh, it's a little bit outside of what I'm looking to do, but I am open to working on this kind of work, and it's
Right.
okay. I'll expand my portfolio." Whereas someone who's been out of work for a very long time, I find
Right.
that commonly it has to be this, it has to focus on this, you have to
Mm.
change your story to fit the way that I see stories should be, and
Mm.
it's very inflexible when it comes um, to getting projects done or even taking on projects or who they're going to work with. It's very, very narrow, and they end up not having proof of the work. And they a lot of times have this perfectionist mentality
Mm-hmm.
of, if you don't make the character exactly the way I want it or the background exactly I want um, they have this mentality of throwing things out. Just, it's
Mm.
not going to work. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be the level I want. So we're not going to start it, or we're not going to finish it.
Mm.
And also, that narrowness happens with networking as well. I only talk to these kind of people who look this kind of way, who speak with this kind of pattern, who
Mm.
have this kind of background. And that doesn't really take you very far in the industry. And in fact, when people find that you're very judgmental and that you may even be the kind of person who puts negative opinions onto other people unjustly, they're
Mm-hmm.
not going to want to stay around you.
Mm.
Um, I see
That's
those
that.
as
You
really,
know what? I know
yeah,
about 10 or 15 people you describe to a T, and it's
yes,
crazy. I never put it into words, but you describe that to it at to a when I say perfectly to a T, and I'm
yes,
called like this is why you out of work, man. I was like, but I think that's a very commonality. I'm glad you
yeah.
expressed that because sometimes you don't know if you fit into something, and you just say, oh, that's me. Well, let me change. So I think that's
That
that's crucial.
that kind of heavy perfectionism
Mm-hmm.
leads people to procrastinate more and to be unmotivated and to not get work done. And often they don't take the advice of others.
Mm.
I've met people who I gave them the advice they asked for, and then 10 years later, and I kid you not, 10,
10.
10 years later, they're in the
Okay.
exact same spot. They still have been taking the advice, and they're still asking the same exact question.
Wow.
So, yeah,
That's crazy. I mean, I think it's making the same mistake over and over and taking advice. So I mean, I think a lot of creatives are falling, and it's to be a creative, to be honest, is pretty difficult, and especially nowadays when you have to have multiple skill sets, and now things are bleeding onto other things. And before, when I was coming in the game, you would just okay, we just need you to do X. Now it's like you need to do X, Y, and Z, and then the software is ever changing. You know what I mean? So the way you used to do it maybe 2 years ago, there's a faster way or a different way to do it now. The core mechanics will stay the same, but even the software you use may go through a tremendous update. You know what I mean? The buttons may be mixed up. Like, oh, I used to do this over here. And so you have a experience to update. In Adobe, I think they drop updates every 6 months. Even though it's not like groundbreaking updates, still, if you stay in Adobe 2018 or 2016, there's so many faster ways to do certain things, whether you be illustration, animation, just traditional Photoshop, 2D, 3D graphics, whatever the case may be. I think the field is, I would say, one of the most fastly evolving fields, because even the computers are faster. Like, they just drop a new graphics card, so even what it takes you to do something, it's a lot faster. So I think that the field is ever changing. I think being stiff and not taking advice, you have to evolve with such a field. You know what I mean? And not to say that the core things doesn't to remain evergreen, but you have to evolve in this field. And I think that's one of the crucial ways of staying, just staying abreast. Staying because I remember social media wasn't a big deal back in the days, right? Now it's a huge thing, and you got to go out there and keep a portfolio. And a lot of people say Instagram, have a portfolio on there, and even the Zoom conversations and reaching out to people. I remember back in the days you had to get like a little dressed up, get your little portfolio, some paper. You had to go door to door and say, hey, here's my portfolio, this and that. Now you have websites and say, hey, go online, look at it, and let me know. So I think that's crucial. But how can an artist get more attention to their work and land more jobs? How do they get that attention to them?
I think artists need to become very clear with themselves and with their art. I see so many artists who are all over their place. I was on my social media today, and there was this artist who's talented in one thing and then was posting a completely different thing, and it just felt like it was straight out of left field. And it sets in a sense of confusion as to what you're really good at and what your focus is and where your passions lie. If you think about your presence online or just your business and artistic presence, I want you to think a lot about your website and your portfolio and the way you package yourself. When you're making a resume, you want to make sure it's focused, right? You have several resumes. You have your animation resume, maybe your customer service resume, maybe your gardening tools resume, whatever it is. If they're very different things, they all have different resumes. And when you're making your portfolio, you also want to do the same thing. You want to make sure it's focused and very clear as to what you are trying to get. Because if you think about your website as a product page or a service page, as you would Amazon or Walmart or someplace that was, very narrow. You're not going to go to Walmart and hope to get a tutorial in how to rig a character.
Right.
Unless you're purchasing a book. No, they don't do that. And if you're going to a convenience store or the bookstore, you're not expecting to have food cooked for you at the bookstore or get your hair done at the library.
Very important,
It confuses people. And in fact, when people see you adding multiple services, like if I did go to a hair salon and it also was a car wash and it also was a movie theater and it also was all these other things, I might question as to what they're really talented in and if I should be trusting that they would be really good in the service that I need. So really focus on the fact that people are coming to your page, your portfolio page, your website for a specific service. They want to know, can you solve my problem? And you need to clearly articulate, yes, I can solve your problem. In fact, I'm an expert in solving your problem. That is my main dealie, solving your problem. So become clear as to who you are as an artist, what kind of art you make, what services you truly provide. As an animator, it's easy to say, well, I'm a storyteller. Okay, what else are you? You're an advertiser, you're a marketer, you're someone who can translate someone else's ideas into visuals. So you're a translator. You're also, you're a person who can communicate and educate people in unique ways and tap into different communities. So really finding a way to sell yourself in a way that meets the pain points of people who are coming to your page. And that is going to get more people on your page. So if you're making a image to put on your social media site, maybe like for October, we have Inktober coming up and we have a lot of creative challenges. You might want to do some character designs or you might want to draw some pictures. Instead of thinking, oh, I just want to draw some pictures so people know that I'm creative and that I have a certain artistic style and that I'm available to make art. Instead of just focusing on those three simple things, which so many artists do, also think about who are your customers? Who are the people who can afford the art you are selling? So knowing your price point ahead of time, that goes into knowing yourself, how much money you need to make in your art and you project to make later on. And what level does the art you're putting out need to be? What kind of genre does it need to be? Is it just all Halloween themed stuff? Because yes, you can use the hashtags of these challenges to help boost your SEO when you're posting, but also thinking about, if you're someone who's trying to work at an animation studio, and I use this because it's so popular for people to want to work in this glamorous job, which is the
Yes.
animation studio.
Oh yeah.
If you were trying to work in an animation studio and you were creating art for Inktober,
Right.
think about what kind of art is going to appease that studio. What art is going to say, this artist is going to bring value to our studio? Is it honestly going to be the next fan art piece that you can't even use technically because there's copyright infringement going on with you doing that? Is it you doing a style challenge that's going to match the style of the studios you're trying to work for? Big star by that one.
Okay.
Is it going to be you creating something that they can use for the next piece? Maybe it's a company. Maybe you're working in government contracting or in dentistry or the legal animations. Those pay well, people. Legal animations pay well. Maybe your challenge is going to be creating content that fits the challenge season and moves up your SEO, but also fits perfectly into the audience that you're trying to reach. There are some techniques I like to use outside of creating art. So for an animator, it takes a long time to make your art, right? Compared to an illustrator or a character designer. So you need to be able to repurpose the art that you make. And some things that I like to do are behind the scenes pieces. So if you show yourself creating your art, that helps. If you show the process and you're doing like time lapses or different stages, you can use that in your advertising. And a huge thing, which I feel so many artists stay away from, is just telling people that you are competent in your field. Doing interviews like this, with creative convos.
Right. Hey, appreciate the shout out.
Doing articles. Doing articles, having things written about you, solving people's problems without doing the art. So maybe another artist is struggling and you give advice. Maybe you critique other people's work. And maybe you show yourself as someone who is not just a hand for hire, but also understands the entire creative process.
Wow.
That's definitely going to help get more eyes on you. Wow. And if you are still struggling, I will tell you the backdoor way in is to get on other people's pages that can help you and to use their brand to help sell your own. Wow. So if there is a artist who is high up there, you can do the thing of commenting on their page and making sure you highlight your own expertise and value. Right. So instead of saying, nice art piece, I really love Spider-Man.
Right.
Instead of saying that, talk about, their composition and their use of color, their use of lighting, their positioning, like all of that. Showcase your expertise while you're complimenting them. That's more likely to get them to look at you and their followers to look at you. And if you are really not getting attention from them, there's always those fan pieces. So one thing that I've done, I have another YouTube channel, and it's not on art, so I usually don't share it with my art channel stuff, but I've got nearly 10,000 subscribers in a year. And growing that channel, I used a few techniques. I don't even make that many videos, honestly. Sometimes I'll go like an entire month. Like last month, I didn't make a video.
Oh, wow.
So I'm not a huge person who makes a lot of content. I have maybe 12 videos on there right now. But I made my videos not just for the people who are looking at it, but for the person I want to get the attention from. So there is a larger person who, I made these as a journey. It was like a thank you for making this content. I'm using your techniques and this is how it's working for me. And that got the attention of the person who was making the content. And then they gave me a shout out. And that shout out boosted the likes and it boosted the subscriptions quickly. Less work. I have another friend, Mark, who worked in studio with me, and he really wanted to meet the group One Direction. Do you remember that group?
I'm in sync, but go ahead. Yeah, but you go One Direction.
Yeah, no. So One Direction, he really wanted to meet them. He's a huge fan. He decided one hiatus. Remember, for television animation, it's like 2 to 3 months. One hiatus, he spends 2 to 3 months making an 18-minute animation as an homage to this group. It not only got over 1 million views in a week, he got on the news for it. He got a contact from a major studio. I think it was like Nickelodeon. They asked him about being like a creative director or artist director, something like that, some high up role. And yeah, with
Wow. That's
2 to 3 months he spent making an homage to someone who could give him the views that he needed if it played into the fact that that this is a larger
right.
channel, it's a
Right.
larger platform. You
Yeah.
making a piece for that larger platform and then them giving you a shout out. Other people, their fans
Hmm.
seeing it and then
Right.
that boosting you quickly and generating more opportunities for you. So
Definitely.
if you are struggling with all the things I named in the beginning,
Right.
about making sure that you are focused and clear in your offerings
Right.
and that you are targeting people who can afford your work.
Right.
Honestly, if you are making commissions for your friends and people who can afford $10 commissions,
Right.
how are you going to make ends meet?
Right. Right. It's
Think
a hobby.
about the price. Mhm.
No.
Yeah, think about the price point of what you're offering and if it even is feasible for you to continue making that kind of art for the clients that you are. And then make sure that the work that you are putting out there is going into the correct channels.
Right.
And I mean, I could talk all day about exactly how to tweak your channels and how to put your hashtags and how to bump your SEO. But if
Right.
you're struggling with all of that and you already commented on people's artwork to get attention back to your platform, go ahead, do the last ditch effort of making it an homage to
Hmm.
someone who has a larger platform and who can take their platform and use it to boost your own.
Wow, that was all great advice. All of it great, huge great. Wrote down a couple points myself. That's very, very important. Like, cause I've been in the field for such a long time, but still, it's just new information is always great information, and getting it and try to repurpose it and make it fit me. I mean, that's crucial. So let's talk about MAL, my animation. What's the? Give me a wrong.
Life.
My animation life. I blanked out there because I'm still rehearsing some of that information you told me prior. But
Oh
so
yeah.
my animation life. Let's get into that. So you do events, and you just break it down to someone who has no idea what it is.
If you have no idea about My
Mm-hmm.
Animation Life and you've never heard of this company before, I want you to think resourcing and staffing.
Mm.
Resources for people who need resources, whether that's artists who need education, who need networking, who need assistance
Mm-hmm.
with learning how to be a stronger artist so that they can be employed,
Right.
and also resources for people who are making projects, these companies and organizations, and even individuals who are looking to find a project manager or find talent. And think
Mm-hmm.
about the staffing. Now, that is the actual placement. That's
Mm.
us working with artists and putting them on projects. So
Yeah.
if you're a company who's looking for an artist, reach out to us and we will find artists for you, whether they be here in Atlanta, Georgia, or
Mm-hmm.
they are somewhere else in the world, depending on your flexibility with your project, and
Mm-hmm.
place them on the project so that you can work with them. Now, what we
Mm.
do that's different from you just putting an ad up is that we
Right.
actually vet our artists. So we
Mm.
make sure that they are capable because
Yes.
everyone who works with us is an artist, is a
Mm-hmm.
professional. We don't just know the business side, we know the creative side. It's
That's
easier for
important.
us to tell when something is um, really strong in an artist or if something's off about an artist,
Mm-hmm.
and also to be able to support artists throughout a project. So
Mm-hmm.
normally if you put an ad up for an artist and you're just looking for someone to help your project, you're
Mm-hmm.
on your own.
Yeah.
If something goes wrong with the contract, if they get sick and they can't work on the project anymore, if your vision isn't aligning, you're not working together well, if
Yeah.
anything happens with that project, it's up to you to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And working with an agency means that we'll fix the problem for you.
There you go.
So that makes it a lot easier, and it also brings down the amount of time and budget that you have to spend
Mm-hmm.
on it.
Oh yeah, because you could extend your project with issues and mistakes, and you can extend your project from a 1 month to 6 months easily. I've
Oh,
seen it
and that
happen.
expends budget. And when you run out of budget before your project is done,
Oh
oh
my
gosh.
goodness. Oh man. And it's you can't point fingers when you're in that position, because I know creative directors who
No.
just they use they did individually. They went out and hired people individually, and it didn't work out. And they went the agency route, and then they're like, I'm never doing it the other way again. Because I think you just have
Yes.
that communication, and when you vet an artist, and I don't want to talk bad about artists, but artists tend to be, it's a different type of employee. It's not traditional by employee. It's a different type of employee. And so you want to vet these artists and make sure they're just ready to take on an assignment. Sometimes like to double down. Well, I'll do two at once. And computers crash at last minutes. It just happens. So I think just having to vet an artist, and then the communication to talk to an artist and say, hey, this is what this project entails and the details. Because sometimes you get into a project, you're like, oh, it makes something awesome. You make something awesome. No, I want something this like this. I wish you should have told me that to begin with. Now I'm over here. You're moving the goalposts.
With the language to use, because we have a different vocabulary, and if you say, oh, you want to make it more, whatever insert word that we're not familiar with, yes, what does that mean to an artist, and how do you communicate that so you actually end up with what you want?
Exactly. So I think that's a huge thing. It's needed. It's definitely needed. You know what I mean? It's definitely one of those things that's hugely needed, and it's something that it bridges the gaps. And a lot of times you go into that creative field, you just don't know. You know what I mean? There's so many different. Even talking about styles. Because I had a conversation with an individual, and they was like, look, I'm looking for somebody who does animation. I said, well, 2D or 3D, and it's like, what's 2D or 3D? I was like, oh, well, this is not gonna happen here, because it's
that's
like
the level we're on.
Yeah, it's like, whoa, okay, well, I mean, and then it's like, you show me some examples, and they show you things all over the place, and I guess from the outside, since you've been in the field for so long, you don't necessarily, you're so inundated with it. You look at it, so that's 2D, oh, that's 3D, oh man, they made 3D like 2D, oh man, this is graphic, oh, that's the illustration, oh, that's something done in Photoshop, but that's something done with this. So I guess you just kind of see it, and you forget that people outside the field don't necessarily know what's borderline motion graphics, what's technically animation, what's character animation, what's creature animation, everything in between. And so a lot of that is lost in the communication, and I think you definitely need somebody who's able to communicate that to somebody who just doesn't know. They're like, I just want something to look awesome, and you can break all that down, and then when you come to an artist and say, okay, you got 2 weeks to get it done, you got this and this, they want an illustration, they want it done like this, and so now you're like, okay, I can take that and I can digest this, I can give you what you want, versus I just want something to look awesome. So I think that's is super crucial. And I think a lot more projects would get done. Even indie projects. So a lot of times somebody have a great idea and have a budget, and they're like, okay, I need to go hire some creatives, and they'll blow their whole budget on, just issues here, and that person didn't work out, and this and this. And sometimes the fault lies on both sides, because they weren't able to communicate what they want, and maybe the artist wasn't as diligent knocking out the task. And so maybe the budget was not in the right for that project. So it's a lot of those things that need to be fixed, so if your X amount of dollars can go to exactly what you want it to go to. You know what I mean? And so I think it's crucial. So when is your next event? Like, when's the next one? I know the COVID and whatnot, but when's the next event? Is it coming soon, or?
So we have one event coming up next month, and awesome. That is our animation industry networking. If you're in the animation industry and you find that the disconnect for you getting more jobs or getting hired at a studio is that you don't know enough people with the opportunities. Remember, more than 80% of creative opportunities are never put online. That means you will never see them ever on your computer.
Wow.
There are opportunities that are passed down word of mouth from people who are directly in contact with the opportunities. And even the opportunities that are posted online often go to people who know someone. So it's really important for you to stay connected in this industry. So if you are in the position where the fact that you don't have as many opportunities is only being blamed on the fact that you don't know enough people that are connected, then definitely join a networking event that is going to plug you into not just people here in Atlanta, but people all over the world who have creative resources and creative needs and creative opportunities that they can hand you. Another event that we're having is an animation beta program. So if you are in a really dire position, you're that student who just got out of school, you're that person who couldn't afford to go to a university or pay for online classes, or you're that person who hasn't had a job for a while, and even the person who's at a studio needs to leave that studio. If you're any of those people and you're looking to really kick off your animation career, you want to learn how to price your work, how to find clients, how to become more independent as an artist. I was always told in my business classes, if you think that just because you're an employee, you're not working for yourself, you're fooled. You're always working for yourself. Even if someone's handing you a paycheck, at the end of the day, the person who decides whether you get paid or not is you. So if you're in a situation where you're not as independent with your finances, then this is the program. And with a beta program, it significantly relies on feedback from people. We are launching a program directly after it. So the beta is a lot easier to get into. So if you'd like to get into our November beta program, it starts November 1st. Just send me an email. You can go to myanimationlife.com and fill out our form and just say you want to be in the beta program. And if you'd like to go to our October networking event where you can meet other people in the animation industry, There is an event link already created on our Facebook page, and it's also on our website. We have an Eventbrite, it's on our
Awesome.
LinkedIn, it's on all
Awesome.
that kind of stuff.
Okay, we run one Google search on my animation network life. We can find it out, and I'm gonna put the link in the
Yeah.
description just in case you're like me. I just want to click on the link, so we're definitely gonna put the link down there as well. I mean, this has been such insightful information. I mean, it's been like, I feel like you covered it for anybody who want to know anything about forget animation. Anybody who wants to know anything about anything creative, just to get an understanding, I think it was very insightful, and we definitely would love to have you on again and again, because I think you talk about a lot of topics, and we can go in deeper in any direction. But I think you cover a lot of topics that I think a lot of people who just got started, a lot of people who's been in the field, a lot of people who want to do something creative. I think you bridge a lot of gaps, and I definitely encourage them to reach out to you. You know what I mean? And say, okay, let's get started. I think my opinion, my personal opinion, is the first person that should contact is you, right? Contact you and then take it from there. Even if they contact you and they say they back out or whatever, start with you first, and then you can get an understanding of, even just break down your ideas and ideology from the outside the field or inside the field. I recommend a lot of creatives just to reach out to you and get that information. Like you say, stay in the network, because we said, I forget, 80% of all jobs are not posted online, and so that community is huge. So I would say, look, reach out to you and start that community, grow that community, and get into the field. So, I mean, I really just want to say thank you for, taking the time. I know you're very busy. I know you're doing a lot of things, but I want to say thank you for taking the time to be on the show, and we really, really appreciate your time and your energy and your efforts. So, other than that, I mean, I settled on keep it under a certain amount of time. I want to be true to my word. So, I mean, do you have anything last thing you want to say to any people before we sign off?
I will say one thing that really motivates me to keep going in this, because
Mm-hmm.
we talked about a lot of stuff and it can seem overwhelming,
Mm-hmm.
um, is to find a way to reach out to communities that are going to
Mm-hmm.
impart knowledge and wisdom and support into your life.
Mm.
So I've joined different groups online where we have accountability partners, and we
Mm.
have information sessions where they'll teach you more about business in general. And even if you can't get your hands on a program like our animation beta program, where you'll learn
Mm.
more about the animation behind the scenes and the business part, find another general business program and learn how money is made in general, and
Mm.
view yourself as more of a product or a service that is being provided for the masses.
Mm. That's another nugget. She just keeps going. This is awesome. So I'm definitely going to love to have you on again. I want to say, everybody out there, I thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. I thank you for commenting. I appreciate you guys. And I would just say, be safe out there and get to work.